All right, hopefully you had a chance to try this page. So I'm just gonna go over and make sure that we're all on the same page. Some features of the parabola that you're gonna wanna make sure you know. Hopefully you were somewhat familiar with the vertex. In this case, it's at 3, 1. Axis of symmetry was new. Remember, that's just the line that divides the parabola into two symmetric parts. For our case, it's mostly going to be a vertical line. So it's always going to be x equals 3 in this case. And you'll notice that it's always going to be whatever the x coordinate of the vertex. X-intercepts, roots, zeros is another word you'll hear when we're talking about where the quadratic crosses the x-axis. So that should have been at 2, 0 and 4, 0. And then your y-intercept, where it crosses the y-axis, in this case, was at 0, -8. One word that's not mentioned here but will come up is what is the maximum or minimum? In this case, we'd have a maximum. In other words, there's a highest point and it would be at 1. You notice the highest y value is at 1. All right, so hopefully you recognize some patterns and you were able to at least figure out, looking at these quadratic functions, where the vertex was. Now, you notice that there is, when we write out the form, some different letters that are going to be referred to when we have quadratics. And one of them, obviously, is the A, which tells us how it opens, up or down, and skinny, fat, kind of what you already knew from your transformation experience. X minus, whatever the H is, will tell us how far left or right it moves, and then plus K. K refers to the y coordinate of the vertex, how far up and down. So let's just kind of do a check, and hopefully you tried some of these. If not, you'll pick it up quickly. Because a lot of this is just renaming what you already knew from transformations. So the first one, your vertex should be -1, -32. Your A is 2, meaning it opens up because that's a positive number. You also might know it's a little bit skinnier, but we're focusing on the big picture here. Number 2, vertex, -4, 12. Your A is -3, and it opens down. Number 3, your vertex is -3, 12. A is -3, and it opens down. And number 4, vertex, -1, 16. Your A is -1, and it opens down. Okay, so this form that we just worked with the parabolas or the quadratics in, is called vertex form, okay? And it's called vertex form because you can easily see the vertex. So let's just do number 1 and talk about, like, okay, if we're graphing in vertex form, which you've already done, now that we can understand some patterns, you can do it a little bit more efficiently. So let's look at it. Key features. Our A is -1, so we know ahead of time it opens down. And if it opens down, we know that the parabola is going to have a maximum. Okay, now you'll start to be able to do this more quickly, but let's just kind of talk it through, skipping axis of symmetry. All right, what's your vertex? We know it goes left 3, or that H is -3. Your K, or your Y coordinate, is 5. Okay, so let's kind of take that through. If we know our parabola starts at -3, 5, I'm going to stick the vertex on there. Now, to get other points, now I know when I look at my table. So why don't you guys go ahead, put this quadratic in your calculator, and look at your XY table. I'll give you a minute. You probably need to go to your backpack, grab your calculator, or maybe you already have it. So go ahead, put that function in your calculator. Okay, now if we're going to make our XY table, now we already know a key point is -3, 5. So we are just going to pick points to the left and the right of that to easily get your graph. So then we'd have -2. Yeah, it would be -2, I think it is 4. Then you have -1, and you have 1. Next you have, if you plug in 0, you're going to have -4. Okay, that gives you one side of the parabola. Now, you could probably just use symmetry, or you could keep looking at your calculator, but you can see you can get your other points. I just want to make sure I do it right. Makes you a little nervous when you're doing the video. Okay. You get your other points. Bum-ba-da-dum. You got your parabola. So now you can go back and answer some of the other ones if you weren't able to do it just from the equation. Your axis of symmetry, remember, that's this line. And it's going to be at x equals -3. Also matches up with our H. Your y-intercept, well, we could plug in 0, but we've already got it from our table. 0, -4, and don't worry about the point. You have plenty of points on your parabola. Okay, so that's it with vertex form. Go ahead, pause the video, and go ahead and use your calculator, and you can ignore the point part, and go ahead and try to graph this one doing the different features. Okay, hopefully you paused me. Now let's unpause. You should have A is 2. It opens up. The parabola has a minimum. It's at x equals -5. Your vertex is going to, oh, what am I talking about? -5. Let's try again. Your axis of symmetry is going to be x equals -2, matching up with your vertex -2, -5. Your y-intercept ends up being at 0, 3. So let's go ahead. Your graph should look like this. -2, -5. And then your other points should be -1, -3, and then 0, 3 gets your other side of it. And you have yourself a little skinny quadratic. Okay, that's vertex form. All right, let's jump into our next form. So keep going, page 13. And this time, we're going to talk about how you would graph and recognize when you have it in standard form. You can see standard form is like what we use. Often the right side is similar to how you look for A, B, and C with the quadratic formula. Now, here's big. So big, make a box. Okay, here's a huge thing, because you can look at it, even though it's not in vertex form, and you can use this to find the vertex. So let me tell you what I mean. If you want the vertex of number 1, you know that, A is -1, B is -2, and C is 15. Okay? So if you notice, it says opposite of B over twice A. That gives me the x coordinate of the vertex. So I'm going to just go over here, do a little side. H equals the opposite of B. B is -2, so the opposite's going to be 2 over twice A. Okay, and that's going to give me 2 times -1. Okay, hold on a second. I just want to make sure. Yep. So we're saying twice A. 2 times -1. That's going to give me 2 over -2, I believe. Yes, opposite of B over twice A. So that's going to give me 2 over -2, which is going to give me 1. See, make sure I have that right. Opposite of B over twice A. Okay, so what that tells us is that your vertex, the x coordinate, or H, is 1. Now, to get the y coordinate of your vertex, all you need to do is go back and plug 1 into that quadratic. Okay, so let's do that. Grab your calculator. Let me see if I can easily grab mine here. You're probably faster than me. Maybe you already did it. I'm just going to use this one. Okay, so if we're going to plug in, what was it? 1. Ooh, wait, that should be -1, shouldn't it? 2 over -2 should be -1. Okay, so if we're going to plug in -1, what we're going to have to do is, let's go ahead and make sure we do all our parentheses and stuff. We'd have the opposite, -1 squared, minus 2 times -1 plus 15. Okay, all those, the key part is making sure that when you plug in -1, that you put it in parentheses when you square it. We kind of run into that before. So we would say the vertex is -1, 16. Okay, now what you're going to do is your A still is going to be the same. So A is -1, so you know it's going to open down. Okay, let's do another one to kind of get that idea. So, vertex. I'm going to identify my A, my B, and my C. I've got to do, to find the x coordinate of the vertex, I do the opposite of B over twice A. -4 over 4 And that's going to give me -1, I believe, again. -4/4. Yep, here we go, -1 again. So my vertex, the x-coordinate's -1, comma. We're just going to plug in x to get y. So we'd have 2 parentheses, -1 plus 4 times -1 minus 30. I get -32. So you're going to make your vertex -1, -32. Your A, 2, so it opens up. Okay? So go ahead, just to get this idea, take number 3 and number 4, pause the video, and go ahead and just come up with your vertex and the other information asked. Okay. So now let's do a check. Hopefully you paused me and you're actually doing this. And hopefully I have the answer correct. So let's hope. Your vertex, what I have in my key, is 134. A is 3, and it opens up. Your vertex here, opposite of B, should have been 16 over twice A, -4. So we have -4, comma, 8. And A is -2, it opens down. Okay, so now here's a put it all together. Can we look at it in standard form? And yes, we could just put the whole thing in our calculator, but could we be able to do it a little bit more strategically, knowing what we know now? So let's go ahead. We know in this case, we have A is 1, B is 10, C is 21. So we know it's going to open up. It's going to have a minimum. All right, let's find our vertex. H equals opposite of B, which would be -10, over twice A, which is 2. So we've got H is -5. So the x-coordinate of your vertex is -5. Okay, go ahead, plug in -5 into your function. Nope, don't wait for me to do it. You do it. Okay, you got it? All right, you should get -5/4. So our vertex is at, is it 4 or -4? Ooh, I wrote something wrong. Did you get negative? Let's double check that. Did you get -5/4 or -5, -4? I believe it should be -5. Let's look. 25 plus -40. Yes. Okay, so it should be -4. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, -5. 1, 2, 3, -4. Okay, and go ahead and you can put it in your calculator if you haven't done so already in your table and get some other points. Okay, go ahead and graph it. If you need to pause me, you can. All right, so you should have your parabola looking like this. Okay, and here's your parabola. Now, the one thing that is not on the graph, but we could get algebraically, is the y-intercept. We're just going to ignore that, baby. Your y-intercept, remember, is whenever you plug in 0 for x. So go ahead, look at that equation. If you plug in 0 for x, 0 squared plus 0 you're just going to get whatever that number is in standard form. So our y-intercept is at 0, 21. Ooh, what about your roots and x-intercepts? Now we'll talk more about how to get them algebraically. Basically, if you plug in 0 for y, you're going to get -3 and 7. You can see that from the graph, but just as a little preview, look at what happens if I plug in 0 for y. I get a quadratic to solve. Hopefully you know that when we solve a quadratic, we can do this. What would it be? X plus 3. Oh, this is -7. Okay, because I would get x plus 3, x plus 7, set those equal to 0, and we've got our quadratic equation that we could solve, and we could also get the roots or the x-intercepts. Okay, so hopefully you got a good background on this, and you are good to go, and I will see you soon.